Hey everyone, it is Monday and welcome to Huddling in Place at the Nine-Sided Circle, episode 32. It is April 27th, 2020. I am one of your hosts, Noor Kyle in Los Angeles.
And I am the other one of your hosts, Mushtaq Ali, somewhere on the main street of Taos, New Mexico.
Yeah. You're telling me you've been there before.
I've been there so many times I've lost count.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was like a major hangout for me when I was younger.
Wow.
One of
That's
the
really
most
cool.
beautiful little towns in the world.
Yeah, I'm looking at the mountains in the background.
Yeah, that's part of the Sangre de Cristo Rockies back there. Absolutely
Damn.
gorgeous. And yep, if you were heading in the direction of those mountains, you would first come to the plaza, which is a beautiful place, and then a whole bunch of stores, and then my favorite restaurant in all of Taos for having breakfast and lunch. They have the best sopapillas and New Mexico style enchiladas there. They're really, really good. And then you come to the Pueblo.
Yeah.
And then if you keep going up that road, you come to the Rio Grande, and a huge bridge across the Rio Grande Divide, which is like a huge canyon at that point. And then if you follow the road for about an hour, you get to Ojo Caliente, which is one of the nicer hot springs in the world.
Wow.
Yes, all the places.
Yeah, I feel like everything is kind of, they're all in relationship to one another.
Yep.
I mean, fascinating place to grow up.
Truly.
So,
what are we going to talk about today?
Today, we wanted to expound on a few more precepts of the Sufi path according to us. So this is our part 3, and we're going to do 4 more today.
A whole 4, huh?
Uh-huh. Yep,
Okay.
yep.
Do we want to do a check-in before that?
Oh, yeah, we can, sure. What's going on in the world right now?
What's going on in the world? Let me see. Donald Trump claims that we're going to all have really good coronavirus testing any minute now.
Any minute now.
Any minute now, and he's going to do it. And like everything else he says, this is probably going to fall through.
Yes, and also a lot of states and or cities are talking about reopening some essential, just beyond the most basic essential businesses to expand a little bit further, or even just, having a free-for-all where everybody opens up.
Yeah, but probably
Yeah.
not here because California, here in the Bay Area, we have had an uptick in cases.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because a couple of weeks ago, people got a little stir crazy, and now it's starting to show us what's going to happen.
I see. Yeah, I suspect that will happen here as well. We had a heat wave over the weekend, and everyone was at the beach. And you may go there with the intention of socially distancing, but the fact is, yeah, it's really challenging to keep your physical distance. We did go to the beach one weekend, but literally there were like yards and yards between us and other people. And on a weekend where everyone has the same idea, that's going to be problematic.
Yep.
So that's a thing. And the real, my thought right now about opening up businesses is the people who are working at Dollar General or Wendy's or whatever, these are not people who signed up to put their lives on the line. But at this point, if they're struggling financially, they're going to feel pressure to work or they're going to lose their jobs. And that really sucks. Because these are going to be people who are already vulnerable, socioeconomically. As we've seen, it's been a lot of people of color. And of course, there are some, poor white folks as well who are going to be involved. But unfortunately, this is going to deepen economic inequalities in a big way.
Yep. But it also shows us whose jobs are really valuable.
Yep.
And the people who are parasites upon the system, like the hedge fund bros. There
Yeah.
are people who give nothing to this economy. By the way, contrary to what some people are saying today, the last few years have not been the greatest economy America has ever seen. If you want to see a great economy, go back to the 1950s.
Yeah.
Yeah, mid 1950s to mid 1960s. This is when a guy who was working as a delivery man could buy a house in Los Angeles and raise a family on his salary.
It's almost hard to believe right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's what a good economy looks like. A good economy looks like the regular people can own houses and have decent jobs and raise families and only have one person working.
Hmm. Who
Yeah.
knows? Yeah.
Yeah, a decent economy doesn't mean that Bezos gets more billions. Sorry, it just doesn't.
Nope. So, with that said,
Yes.
let's
Sorry,
lead into
I'm shaking my fist again.
Oh no, well, I think our first precept is relevant to this
Yes,
discussion. Yeah?
probably so.
Yeah. So, our first precept that we have for you today is clean up your dwelling place, deserve the money you earn.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Clean up your dwelling place. I know that that means more than one thing. One is treat your home as if God might visit you at any moment.
Mm.
If God were going to visit you, would you want to have dirty dishes in the sink or crap on the floor or your bed unmade or any of these things? God probably wouldn't care, but you
I
would.
was gonna say,
Yeah.
I hope God wouldn't care, but nonetheless, yeah. Um, yeah, because when you take care of your living space, it helps you psychologically as well. I mean,
Yes.
you know where everything is. You're not going to be overwhelmed by the fact that there are crumbs in your bed, things like that. Those things that you are going to benefit from anyway.
Yeah, and a sense of external order can help with a sense of internal order. And that's the other
Exactly.
part of this
Yeah.
is the other dwelling place is your body,
Mm-hmm.
your mind. So you want to keep that cleaned up as well, which means do not put pollutants in your body.
Yeah.
Be healthy and do not pollute your thoughts.
What would that look like?
That would look like objectifying things. We're not talking about seeing an attractive person walking down the street and going, oh, that's an attractive person. That's not polluting your thoughts. It's not even polluting your thoughts if you go, oh, I would like to meet that person and maybe sneak off with them. That's not polluting your thoughts. Polluting your thoughts is looking at that person and thinking that as if they were an object rather than a subject that you could experience.
To be used and possessed rather
To be
than.
used and possessed or used and tossed away.
Yeah. Yep.
But if you are treating the other as subject, that doesn't happen. And then your house is clean.
There you go.
Yes.
So then the latter part of this precept, deserve the money you earn. This is where I was thinking, wow, we need to talk about that in this culture. Like,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, we are, at least in this tradition, we think about an honest day's labor so that we can get an honest day's income.
And we think about giving more worth, giving more value than is asked from us.
Right. Yeah.
My teacher used to say, if they ask you to chop a half a cord of wood for your room and board that day, chop a whole cord.
Yeah.
That means what you do produces value. And if what you do does not produce real value, then you're not earning your money.
Yeah.
So the hedge fund bros who are just trying to manipulate the system do not produce value. They shift value, they create the illusion of value, and they're parasites.
Yep.
And we need to be saying that more often.
Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, part of recognizing whether or not we are behaving parasitically is to observe our own actions
Yes.
and to consider our contribution and to value it right size, like making sure we're not undervaluing it either.
Yes, because if you do a good day's work, you're worth a good day's pay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And the Sufi path is one of work. My teacher used to have us work with him. He had a restaurant, a particular kind of restaurant, and all the dervishes would come into the restaurant, and he would pay everybody too. This wasn't like, oh, you are doing service to the teacher. It's like, you're going to work your ass off, and you're going to get paid, but I'm going to teach you how to work.
Yeah.
And that was an interesting bit of education.
Absolutely. I mean, then you're getting paid and you're getting,
Yeah.
the hands-on learning that can only come from being side by side.
Yep. And the hands-on learning was way more valuable than the pay, because after all, it was food service, so you don't get great pay.
Right. Yeah.
But the education was beyond any value of money.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then you pay that forward as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you make your students work.
Yeah.
But then you have to pay them.
Yep, it's true. So, yeah, you do more than what's expected, essentially.
Yep. And you do the best job that you can. We may have a story at the end of that, at the end of this for you that illustrates this whole thing. Yes.
Okay. I'll bookmark that. So.
Number 3.
Well, our second one today.
Second one, yes.
Is let us unite together. Let us be profound, alive.
What does that mean?
What the hell does that mean, Mushtaq?
That means let us unite together. It means we work not in competition with each other, but in cooperation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The basic unit of Sufism is the halqa. Halqa means circle. It is the group with which you work. And that group is round, first of all. So like the round table, there is no place of precedence. And this is the group that you work with. And you literally work as a team oftentimes, doing work around the khanagah or work in the community. And it is a matter of cooperation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's unity in action.
Yes.
Yeah.
The profound part is, what's the opposite of profound? Superficial.
Yeah.
Right? So don't be superficial, be profound, be deep in your actions, and do what you do with aliveness. Be alive, awake, be engaged with what you're doing, even if what you're doing is something as simple as laying concrete.
To be intentional.
Yes.
Yeah. And
to stay out of your ego. My first teacher one day decided that he needed a concrete path from the back door out to the street. So he called us together and he gave us a little bit of money and said, go get a bag of concrete. And so we went and we got a bag of concrete and we mixed it up for him and he showed us where he wanted it and we laid that concrete. Wasn't nearly enough. So he sent us back to get another bag. And we were like, why don't we just get 10 bags? Have to give us the money. We got money. But no, he wanted to do it that way. So we had to get out of our egos and do one bag at a time, back and forth to the store to get the concrete until it was finished. Wow. And we had to be present for that. And we had to be clear on what we were doing. And we couldn't go, this is dumb. It wasn't about the concrete. It was about learning to work intentionally.
Wow. And he forced you to slow down by making you Do
Yes.
each bag at a time. Yeah.
Yep. He forced us to, well, not forced us, but
You know what I
yeah,
mean.
yeah, he got us to pay very, very careful attention to what we were doing.
Yeah.
And each bag of concrete actually meant something.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on to 3. Tell us about 3.
All right. So 3 is do not hurt even if you are hurt.
What does that mean?
So, I mean, we may think of Jesus and talking about turning the other cheek if one is struck. And this isn't exactly saying that, but
No.
it's in a way it's parallel to that in the sense that pausing before reacting is really important.
Yeah. This is more like somebody says something really mean to you. Then you walk down the street and you say something really mean to somebody else.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Fortunately, as Sufis, if somebody strikes us on one cheek, we strike them back. And then,
Yep. Yep.
but we do it with love and kindness.
That's where the paradoxes lie.
That's where the paradoxes lie indeed. So
Yeah.
you have to, when you are hurt, when you are hurting inside, you have a choice of passing that pain on to other people or not, and dealing with it. And that doesn't mean that you are quiet about it. I mean, if Noor is hurting, she can call me up and go, I'm hurting,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
And then we will do what we can to make her feel better. Or if I'm hurting, I can do the same thing. But what we
Likewise.
don't do is Noor doesn't call me up and go, you're an asshole because I'm hurting.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, how can I get the support I need if I'm bringing my hurt and dumping it on you?
Yes.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, it's just about realizing, I mean, to use contemporary language and vocabulary, like if we're encountering things that trigger us, that may be a real thing, but that does not give us automatic permission to take those feelings of being triggered and, you know,
Be a dick.
yeah, to strike out at someone else because we're suffering. Yeah.
Yeah. And there might be a little bit too much of that in the world today.
I definitely think so. And I think this is one of the challenges that communities that are dealing with a lot of collective pain, I think that they struggle a lot with this because they don't know where to place that pain, how to direct it in a way that isn't going to deepen the suffering already present. Yeah. How do you do that? I mean, that's where
the work comes in.
yeah, exactly. Being able to breathe through being triggered or being hurt, whatever term we want to use, and realizing that reacting from a place that is not checked in, that is checked out or overactivated, is going to be problematic for you and everyone around you. Yep. So, yeah, that's a big thing right now. And we are all challenged to do our best in that regard. And that leads us to our next one, which is if something becomes heavy for your own ego, do not pass it along to anyone else.
Yep. A little bit close to the last one, but in a slightly different way.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
This is how family traditions are created. If I cannot bear something internally, it's too much for me to carry. If I'm not awake, I will slough it off on somebody else. I will slough it off on my beloved, or if I have kids, on my kids, or on the person walking down the street, and just give them that shit. And you're not supposed to give people that shit. You're supposed to compost it yourself.
Yeah, that's the hard part. The
And
really
again,
challenging.
you can have help.
Mm-hmm.
You can have all the help you want. Just don't dump on other people.
So what would that look like? What would be, could you give us an illustrated example?
Okay, so you're in the zoo, in the monkey house, and you're looking at the monkeys, and there's a monkey sitting there, and the bigger monkey comes over and slaps the smaller monkey upside the head and steals his fruit. That monkey cries and he runs off, and then he goes over to an even smaller monkey and slaps him upside the head and steals his fruit. That's kind of what it looks like.
Yeah.
So
Paying forward your pain.
paying forward your pain, which we don't want to do.
Right. Yeah.
The right thing to do is get all of the smaller monkeys together and then go rat pack the big one.
Yeah.
Did I say that?
Right. And under more human circumstances, if you have something like, you notice that you are enacting maybe some of the same behaviors towards your children that were enacted upon you, like, how do you break that cycle? That's your challenge. And it can be done. It can hurt, it can be scary, but it is worth it, because then you know that you're not continuing the cycle to the best of your ability. And we all have those things inside of us that are inherited quirks. And if we can discover them and unpack them, I mean, everybody's got their quirks, but at least we're not passing on the heavy burden that we're carrying.
Yep. Are we ready for a Sufi story?
Tell us the Sufi story.
Let me tell you a Sufi story. So there's a dervish who is traveling through the countryside, and he's getting a little hungry, and it's starting to, look like it might rain later in the day, and he sees a woodcutter. So he goes over to the woodcutter and he says, "My friend, perhaps you would let me cut some wood for a meal and a place to sleep tonight." And the woodcutter says, "Well, if you work and you do a good day's job, I will feed you and I will give you a good place to sleep, but no being lazy. I hate lazy." And so the Sufi says, "Yeah, for sure." And he takes an axe and he goes starting to chop wood. And the woodcutter's keeping an eye on him because he doesn't trust these shifty dervishes. And he notices that every hour the dervish sits down for about 10 minutes. And he's resting, and the woodcutter's going, "I thought so. Lazy dervish, lazy Sufi, just sitting on his ass and not chopping wood, and I'm here working nonstop." And this goes on for the day, and they come to the end of the day, and the woodcutter's about to tell the dervish off. But then he looks over at the wood piles and notices that the dervish's wood pile is half again as big as his. And he says, "How did you do that? I saw you resting. Every hour you were taking a break. And I worked all the way through, but your wood pile is bigger than mine. What magic is this?" And the dervish said, "Yes, I took a break and you saw that. But what you didn't see is while I was taking a break, I was sharpening my axe." So there is earning your money.
Yep.
That's what we have for you today. So from beautiful downtown Los Angeles and beautiful downtown Taos, New Mexico, and beautiful downtown somewhere in the Bay Area, we bid you good evening.
Yep. Take care. We'll talk to you tomorrow.